It's my pleasure to be joined by 740 The Fan's Brad Anderson and Chase Miller. Both of these guys have called several games this season on the radio and followed prep sports very closely for years. Let's start in Class A, guys. The bracket was revealed on Saturday. Hillsborough Central Valley earned the number 1 overall seed based on its QRF rating for its region. Velva earned the 2 seed, Langdon, Edmore, Munich, the 3, Dickinson, Trinity at the 4 spot. Brad, I'll start with you. Who do you see as the favorites to reach the Dakota Bowl in Class A?
I would say Hillsborough Central Valley on the top half of the bracket. They've been so impressive throughout the year, Jody, that I think that win over EEK really cemented it, but they've just kind of steamrolled everybody in their path. I know you've been big on Langdon area Munich, in that bottom half of the bracket. I'm a little bit surprised they got that number 3 seed, but they've been, Delvo at quarterback and Peebles and Economy. I mean, those are guys that have put up some big numbers. They were one step shy of going to the Dakota Bowl last year, and I think that's got to be a big motivating factor for them.
Yeah, they had that loss to EEK. Chase, what do you think about Class A?
It's hard not to go against, Hillsborough Central Valley. Oscar Benson is a great outside linebacker who will take Skager's role in the next couple of years for a running back position. And the thing that Hillsborough Central Valley does, their front 7 defensively, they don't allow you to get to the second level. And offensively, I don't know if I've seen a better offensive line in Class A. So we'll see what they can do there. Don't overlook Velva. Their defense is stout. Maybe they play in a weaker region than maybe Hillsborough Central Valley or EEK team, but the Aggies are definitely got a lot of tradition in high school football.
Yeah, and they gave up 13 points last week, which matched their whole season total for defense. So Velva knows how to play defense, but I think you do mention the caliber of opponents. They weren't playing in a Region 1. They weren't doing it against those teams. Region 1 is pretty tough, so that's going to be interesting to see. Do you guys have a surprise team in the field in Class A?
I don't know. I could probably look at maybe Carrington or Oak Grove, perhaps. I mean, Carrington's been really good. Just the one bump on the road against Langdon. Oak Grove has been a nice story. It's hard to believe it's been almost a decade since they got in the playoffs. Yeah. 2008 was the last time, and it's been as Ben Hogarth goes, so goes the Grovers. So you wonder, if they get past the first round, will they get past Hillsborough Central Valley? And they just played them here last week and hung around for at least about 2-3 quarters. But I'd say probably the winner of that game, that Carrington Oak Grove game, might be a surprise. Basically.
Yeah. I think the big team that I look at is Kindred, because their first 3 games are playoff teams against Carrington, EEK, and Oak Grove. This is going to be a team that if they can get out to an early lead against Langdon, there are a lot of youthfulness to this team, but they know what it took to take a 2A state championship to the game last year for the Kindred Vikings. Right. Can they kind of take that experience with the guys who are coming back? And then don't overlook the Lax Burlington, the runners up from last year. No one's talking about the Lakers right now, and they could be a dangerous team coming out west.
We have a couple of teams because I'm going with Trinity. That's one of the teams that jumps to my mind. They lost the season opener to Bowman County, who's not even in the playoffs, by the way, but they've only given up 2 points since the beginning of the year. And that's not the defense giving up those 2 points, obviously, because we know that, because of the safety, because of football rules. But I'd look out for Trinity. I think they can make some noise.
Well, the win over Beulah, too, Jody, was really huge for them.
21 zip. Yep. Beulah turned it over a lot. Well, let's transition to NineMan. And guys, how about this nugget? Out of the top 8 teams in the top half of them were ranked in the top 5 of the final NineMan poll. One of the matchups, Cavalier against Thompson, 1 versus 4 in the state, and a rematch of the season opener, which the Tornadoes won, 28-24. What's your biggest storyline heading into the east half of the state in NineMan?
Well, it's hard to believe that matchup is so early in the playoffs. I mean, it's interesting that they played early on. Thompson got off to a slow start, and they made a run late but ended up falling short. It's hard to believe a matchup that probably could be maybe to go to the Dakota Bowl ends up being that early on. I think that's a very interesting matchup. Wyndmere Lidgewood's an interesting story. They've got 13 seniors, and nobody really stands out more than the other. I think they've been very solid. They'll get New Rockford Cheyenne, who came back from 3 touchdowns down last week to win that game. In the opening round, they took care of Kidder County 36-34. I think just in the East, you look at Cavalier Thompson, and then maybe a possibility with one of those 2 teams in Wyndmere Lidgewood is going to be awfully good. And then out west, you look at Shiloh, you look at North Prairie, you look at New Salem, Glen Ellen. Yeah. Very good balance on both sides.
I like the Cinderella story, Jody, and Mayport CG is a Cinderella story, right? I mean, they had 4 straight losses to to midway point through the year against Richland, Hankinson, Thompson, and Weimar-Lidgerwood. And now you take a look at who they play in Nelson County. Can they get by a Nelson County club? And the one thing I'd take a look at after the first round, there's only one Region 3 team left, and that's Napoleon Gackle Streeter, and all 4 Region 1 teams are still left. And we made mention, playing Region 1 football, this is going to be the big boy football, and we are seeing it right now. If Thompson, they're going to be no slouch going to Cavalier. What can Weimar-Lidgerwood do, now with expectations on them this year on the eastern side? And I think on the western side, New Salem, Glen Ullin, and alongside Shiloh Christian, I think those are your 1-2 punch on the western side.
Yeah, the Holsteins, the runner-ups a year ago. What an awesome story, too. They get loaded up in the cattle hauler and get taken out on the field. I hope they make it again just for that reason. It'd be great to see them. But Shiloh Christian, one of those teams that lost to New Salem, Glen Ullin in an absolute thriller down to the wire. They were going back and forth, exchanging long touchdowns. But Shiloh Christian has a tough one against St. John, so I'm interested to see that outcome. And, of course, the Cavalier-Thompson one, which we'll touch on in just a little bit. Let's make some game predictions. That's what you're here for, right?
That's what I was told anyways.
We'll do 2 in Class A, 2 in 9-man. We start with Class A and a couple of pretty good matchups. Langdon Edmore Munich hosts last year's Class 2A runner-up Kindred. Brad, do the Vikings have a shot against the unbeaten Cardinals? Who are you picking?
Chase made a real good point about how they played that gauntlet those first 3 games, and they won 4 out of 5, and they're playing better. I just don't know if they've got the firepower to get against Langdon Edmore Munich. They're primarily a ground and pound team. They're going to have to control the clock, probably control it for 28, 30 minutes or so. And Langdon can score from just about anywhere in the field. I think it's going to be too much firepower. I think Langdon wins it.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Langdon too. I think the Kindred Vikings, they need to do what they did, play early with the lead. Fargo Oak Grove played with the lead against Hillsborough Central Valley, and they couldn't have scripted any better. You go on the road, which is about a 3-hour trip for Kindred to go up to Langdon. You're going to be playing on a Saturday afternoon. I think Langdon's going to win this game, but closer than the experts think.
Well, you remember last year it was a miracle that Kindred made the state championship game, the unbelievable finish, the Hail Mary against Shanley to put them in. And that was Class 2A. Now they're down to Class A. But I agree with you guys. I just think it's going to be tough. Kindred battle tested at the beginning of the year, but I think Langdon Edmore Munich wins this one. Another team from Region 2, Carrington. Their only loss was to Langdon Edmore Munich, hosts Oak Grove. This one could be interesting, guys. Chase? Who are you picking?
If Ben Holgarth can get going, look out. And the other thing is Caleb Card's not going to be asked to throw the football 10 or 15 times in a football game. But if he can connect 4 or 5 times on play action, that'll really get the Grover offense going. My question is, how banged up are they going to be after playing Hillsborough Central Valley last game? They got a couple guys that are nicked up. I think Carrington wins this one, but this might be the best Class A game in terms of the first round. I think if you're going to Carrington, if you're going to watch a good football game, I think there's going to be a lot of ground and pound teams. Neither team likes to throw the football that much, but I think Carrington gets the win.
Brad?
I just think Carrington's a little bit deeper. Oak Grove has kind of been, Card's done a nice job at quarterback, but it's really been as Hogarth goes, so go the Grovers. And I think Carrington kind of got through, they had the real challenging game against Langdon and they fell a little short. But I just think they're probably a little bit deeper, and I think they win probably about a 7 to 10 point deficit. So.
I'm going to say Oak Grove. Someone has to flip this thing, right? Ben Hogarth has been playing well. They're a very physical team. They can beat you up front. They have some physical offensive linemen. I think they get the job done on the road. Let's talk some 9-man, the big showdown that everyone will have their eyes on. Thompson Cavalier. Who wins it and why?
I think Cavalier wins it. It's going to be close. I think it'll be very similar, probably a touchdown or less. I think home field's a big factor, and I think they can maybe win the battle up front. I think they can be a little, probably win the physicality battle, so to speak.
I'm going to go Thompson this one. I think Thompson, they're used to playing up at Cavalier. They're used to playing each other in Region 2. I think they have a little revenge factor after losing in the first game.
I like the revenge factor. I don't think it's going to happen. I think with Austin Erlaub back in the mix, he got hurt, remember, in that Thompson game, but when he was on the field for Cavalier, Thompson didn't have much of an answer defensively. I don't see them being able to get it done, but I agree with Brad. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it might be a 7 to 10 point deficit that Thompson has at the end of this one. I think Cavalier advances. Our other 9-man pick has Hankinson, who put up 70 points last week, 70, and they're traveling to Region 3 champ Napoleon Gackle Streeter. Who advances, Chase?
Hankinson's got a savvy quarterback in Mason Falk. Don't forget the Hankinson Pirates last year went out to Shiloh in a game that they easily could have won in the quarterfinals. So they got some guys back from last year's team. How good is Region 3? Because, again, Napoleon's the last team, Gackle Street, the last team out of that region. Brad and I were talking before this. It wouldn't shock us if Hankinson wins, but I think Hankinson just comes up a play or two short. I'm going to go Napoleon Streeter.
Right.
I'm going to take Hankinson in this one. I think Region 1, the depth of Region 1, I think is a big factor in this. And they're healthy again. Mason Falk was a little dinged up earlier in the year. He had to leave the Winery-Lidgerwood game about midway through that game. They've got Jackson Malk back on the outside. He had a collapsed lung the first game of the year against Oaks. The one thing that's really hurt Hankinson, the games they've lost, they've been hurt by turnovers. They had 4 turnovers against Oaks in the season opener. They were hurt by turnovers against Winery-Lidgerwood. I think they can go out there. If they can play a clean game, I think they play right. I think they can play well. They kind of match up very well with Napoleon Streeter. That game could be quick. If they go ground and pound like that might be done in about an hour 40.
That's a radio guy and TV guy's dream,
Absolutely.
Right? I'm going to go with you. You just convinced me. I was kind of 50-50. Gosh, which one am I going to take? I think I'll go with Hankinson in the upset special over the Imperials. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate the time and look forward to doing this for the next couple of weeks until we reach the Dakota Bowl.
You bet. Thank you much.
Thanks, Jody.